Is the Field of 68 Best Bets podcast and Best Bets live stream. We had to wait a couple minutes here because Goodman was in the middle of breaking some news. Auburn transfer Justin Powell announced that he is committed to Tennessee. Jeff, what's going on, man? We have a special guest today, the one and only Jordan Sperber from Hoop Vision. Jordan, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Thank you guys for having me. I've been listening to the live streams all season, so thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hopefully Rob hasn't been too annoying, and I've tried to hold down the fort here. And the great thing, Jordan, is we got you on today, which is good. Tomorrow we'll have plenty to talk about, Rob and I, after tonight's games, and then we got like two more, and then I don't have to see Rob again for months.
It's gonna be like caffeine withdrawals, man. You're gonna be walking around with a little bit of a headache, kind of having the shakes.
By the way, I'm wearing this finally with pride today. It's Arizona sweatshirt. The Arizona women's basketball team, if you didn't know, is off to the national title game, Robert. So, yes.
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're – was there a game last night? I don't know. I must have missed it.
And it was more entertaining than any men's game so far this year.
The women's Final Four always delivers. Yeah. It always ends up being like there's tension, there's upsets, there's always something crazy that happens in the women's Final Four. And also, can we just shout out Adia Barnes? Did you see that video of her afterwards?
She's awesome.
Fuck everyone.
The birds, yeah.
Oh man, that's Goodman after he doesn't get a scoop. All right, Jordan. Before we dive into these matchups, just I want you to explain a little bit what you do, the company that you run, the business that you run, and the website that you run, because it's really good content. And so sell yourself. Let the people know.
Yeah, thanks. My business is called Hoop Vision. I was a D1 staffer, a grad assistant, and a video coordinator at Nevada, New Mexico State for 3 years. And after I left those jobs, I started Hoop Vision as kind of like the initial idea was like the internet's video coordinator. So doing a lot of the same stuff that I did on coaching staffs, but on all the different platforms. I have a podcast, a YouTube channel, Twitter, all of that. And it's kind of evolved, but it's a lot of X's and O's and analytics, basically, of the college basketball world.
Yeah, it's perfect for this because you really dive into what is actually happening on a basketball court. And I think my favorite thing about your site is that you do like all this great content and all these great breakdowns and all this great X's and O's stuff. And I think what everybody knows you for is the video you put together of coaches talking about how fast they play at press conferences.
Yeah, and culture. I that's probably as soon as this Final Four is over, I'm going to get back on that grind of clipping up some press conferences. I already have. Yeah. I don't want to do the same like culture again. It seems like I already did that. I have a couple ideas. I'm not going to say them yet, but I have a couple ideas.
You got to give the people what they want, man. You got to give them what they want.
For sure.
All right, so let's dive into these matchups. I want to start with Baylor and Houston first because I think this is far more interesting. And you've done a lot of work on Baylor's no middle defense and on the kind of unique style that Houston plays. So can you just kind of walk me through what do you see out of this matchup? How does Houston attack that no middle defense, and what do you see happening in this game?
Yeah, so I mean, like the easy way to explain Houston is just they're good at everything besides shooting. Like everything else. And they're a little bit better than they were, let's say, last year at shooting and scoring, but it's still not, I mean, the Syracuse game stands out because that looked particularly ugly against their 2-3 zone, but they're kind of like that every game. That's how they function, and they don't turn the ball over a lot, so they at least get shots up, and they offensive rebound at an extremely high level. Obviously, Baylor has been a little bit weird defensively this year. I think there was a time in January or February around there before the COVID pause where they looked like the best defense in the country to me anyways. And I think they might've been number one on KenPom.
They were for a while.
Short time. And then you put last year's results, which, they were a little bit different with Gillespie, but they were good for the entire season defensively last year. Then they come back from COVID pause this year and they're just not as good defensively. They dropped in the stats and, just on film. And I don't think there's much reason to believe that they're that team, because of last year, because of the larger sample size, for my money, they have the best defensive players in the country. It doesn't mean that you have the best defense, but they have the best defensive players. And they have been playing a lot smaller this year and just even later in the season. I think that hurts them a little bit. They gain it back on the offensive end because they're so good with Vital at the 5 offensively. But yeah, so that's kind of that side of the ball is what I'm most interested in. Houston's offense versus Baylor's defense. If we even look ahead towards how Baylor wins it all, that defense has to be at that elite level, to make a run at it for sure.
So the one thing that I referenced, and I think that you picked up on this too, the first time that Houston played Texas Tech back in November, Texas Tech and Baylor kind of have a similar no middle concept when it comes to when it comes to the way that they want to defend. And what Houston basically did was kind of short little probing drives where you don't go all the way to the help. You force the defense to rotate. You don't go all the way to help, and you let guys like Dejan Jarreau and Quentin Grimes pick out the shooters on the perimeter and try to get an open look. And I think were they up like 15-5 on Tech or something like that early?
Yeah,
they jumped out. They jumped out to a lead. So do you see Houston trying to do that again? Is that how you attack this Baylor defense? How would you do it if you were Kelvin Sampson?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. They really did dominate that game. They hit threes too, which is big for if they're making threes, then that's tough. But part of it was the scheme, like you said. It was so the way Baylor and Texas Tech play defense is they don't give you baseline, but it's pretty close to letting you drive baseline. And then they come in aggressively. Texas Tech especially takes so many charges down there. And so Houston was driving to pass. Basically, they were taking 1 or 2 dribbles, drawing it, but they were looking to kick. And I mean, a lot of teams try to do that, and it doesn't really work. But it did work in that Houston game. I mean, I would imagine that they'll have probably 5 or 6 little quick hitting sets, just like they did in that Texas Tech game. And then the other thing is, Baylor's defensive weakness is the glass. And I mean, I can guarantee you that is all the coaching staff, both coaching staffs are talking about going into this game is we have to kill them on the glass if you're Kelvin Sampson, and all they're working on is boxing out right now if you're Baylor. But I think you're right about the X's and O's side of it too.
So how do you think it plays out? And I'm gonna put you on the spot and force you to make a pick on who you think wins this game.
Yeah, what's the line?
Baylor is laying 5 right now.
Yeah, 5.
So I mean, I think that's about right. I saw Ken Pomeroy tweet earlier that the market is either higher on Baylor or lower on Houston than his ratings, which is interesting. I've been a little bit higher on Baylor, I think, than because of the COVID pause and all those reasons. I mean, I think that the line's probably right, but if I had to pick a side, I'd pick Baylor, I guess.
Hey, how good is Houston on the glass compared to everybody else, especially in the offensive glass? When you watch them, I mean, it's incredible how 19 offensive rebounds in their last game. Where do they stack up against everybody else around the country?
Yeah, they're second in offensive rebounding percentage, but number 1 was North Carolina, who's just so different. They're just massive. It's like kind of hard to compare. Yeah, I mean, Gresham in particular, when I was at New Mexico State, we had a player, Jamario Jones, who was first or second in the country in rebounding percentage. And they remind me so much of each other, just like instinct, like Dennis Rodman type of rebounding. Yeah. Jamario was even shorter. So it was like, in my opinion, he was even crazier. But yeah, it's a war, like playing. I remember talking to an American assistant coach before I went to make my Houston video, and like he was telling me they're doing rebounding drills on the day of game, like beating on each other. It's just like you don't really do that so much anymore in college basketball, and it's become their thing, and especially this year, they're second in the country. I
was telling Goodman, Jordan, that they were. I think it was the video you had about Houston. I don't know where you got the tape from, but you had practice tapes of them basically doing Oklahoma drills, going for loose balls.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, like I don't know why they put those out there. There's a couple clips where it looks like people get significantly injured. Like, yeah, I don't know why you put that. Yeah, but yeah, it's real, you know.
Yep. All right. So here's the big question, the $1 million question. You're Mick Cronin, right? You got Gonzaga coming up. How do you stop them? How do you slow them down? What's your game plan? How do you beat this team?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. They switched a lot against Michigan, right? That was kind of the game plan, making Hunter Dickinson beat him in the post. And no one's really done that to Gonzaga, at least in the tournament, and not recently. So I mean, when it's a double-digit spread like this, it can almost be overkill to really, really go deep into them. Like, let's acknowledge the fact that Gonzaga is a huge favorite, in my opinion. But that being said, the switching is interesting. So Oklahoma against Gonzaga, they got super aggressive and they tried to hedge ball screens, and Creighton kind of did the opposite. They got passive and they clogged the paint and they went under ball screens, and then USC tried to zone them. and so that's three different ways that NCAA tournament teams have done it. And so I think that the fourth way that UCLA will try to do it is with switching, and that's naturally going to play undersized players on Drew Timme, which could be an issue. And also, you have to stay in front of Suggs. Honestly, I haven't seen the guards really attack mismatches that much this year for Gonzaga. They just keep moving and passing and cutting, and they're good at not reverting to ISO ball. But Timme would be the guy that probably does it more so than Suggs or Nembhard or whoever.
Yeah, the problem with switching is that with Hunter Dickinson, if you have someone like Cody Riley who's big and strong and not going to get moved off of his spot, you just have him sit on Hunter's right shoulder. Like he becomes very, very limited because he's never going to his right hand. It's like he doesn't have a right hand. It's like he was completely ineffective in the post because he kept trying to get over his right shoulder to his left hand. I don't think you can do that with Timme. He was lighting up Evan Mobley in the post.
He was, yeah.
He can do so much off the bounce. Like, that's what Timme can do. Like, Dickinson, it's like he gets in, he seals his guy. Like, Timme faces up, and he's so unorthodox with some of his moves. Like, he can finish with both hands. He can – I don't know. He's so hard to guard, honestly. He doesn't look the part, but, like, he's just so – the more I watch him, and I kind of had an argument with an NBA GM last week about it, I do think he's going to be a good player in the NBA. Is he going to be a star? No, but I think he's going to find his way in the league. He's going to continue to get better. He's going to expand his range. And again, some of the things he just plays so damn hard. He'll find a way.
No, I mean, the key is going to be the shooting, right? Like, if he becomes a 35% three-point shooter from NBA range, then he'll be in the league for a while. That's the big. I don't think that you can be a guy that is a question mark defensively, that can't protect the rim and that can't make threes and survive in the NBA. But if he's making jump shots, then it's a completely different story. Sorry, I cut you off, Jordan. But
no, yeah, I was going to say defense and 3-point shooting. I mean, I would think the form is a little funky, but I would think that the 3-point shooting will get there. And I mean, he's had somewhat of a jump there, even from freshman to sophomore year. But the rim protection is definitely kind of the weakness in his game. But he's so good offensively that you'd figure he gets a shot.
All right, so my take, and I was telling this Goodman the other day, my take on what UCLA needs to do is basically three things. You can't let Timme beat you in the paint. You have to find a way to slow him down. You cannot let Jalen Suggs get downhill, get into the paint, and be able to just kind of drive wherever he wants to drive. And you cannot let Gonzaga get out in transition and be able to beat you that way. So if I'm Mick Cronin, this is the game plan that I'm putting together. We're taking 25 seconds off the shot clock before we get a ball up. We are sending at most one person to the offensive glass. Everybody else is going to get back. We are helping off of Nembhard and helping off of Ayayi, and basically saying, okay, if those two are going to beat us with threes, then they're going to beat us with threes. And then that's the pack the paint. Don't let Timme beat you. Don't let Suggs beat you. Don't let them beat you in transition. And boom, see what happens. Is that what you would do? Do you think that UCLA can actually execute that to the point where they can beat this Gonzaga team.
So that's most similar to what Creighton did. And Creighton is by no means a defensive juggernaut. They were a little bit better this year, but yeah, there were, if you paused it during some possessions of the Creighton game, there were it was basically 4 players standing in the paint, daring IIE and Nembhard to shoot, and then one guy face guarding Kispert is basically what it was. And it looked good at times. But then what went wrong in that game was, as good as that sounds in theory, Gonzaga starts moving their players around. Kispert is now in the spot that should be the helper, and then they weren't executing the sinking into the paint, basically. And Gonzaga also adjusted a little bit. They are pretty good at. I mean, I'm assuming they're probably expecting switches going into the game,
yep.
Just like we were talking about with Houston having some plays designed for Baylor. Gonzaga will be the same exact way. I guess the slowing the ball down thing, Gonzaga will try to speed them up if they do that. They had that little 1-2-2 press that they used last game that was really good at the beginning of the USC game. They'll try to speed them up a little bit. I think that's easier said than done, but I guess I like it in theory.
Yeah, and so the thing about the Creighton game too was that if you're daring Nembhard and Ayayi to shoot and they hit 5 threes in the first 12 minutes, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, but I got no problem with them trying it. I have no problem with saying Ayayi's not a great shooter. Nembhard's not. They made him against Creighton early. They did. They made him, and they were open. They were uncontested shots. I get it, but I would live with that early, to me, and hope that Suggs settles. He's not a great shooter either. He's streaky. The only guy, again, if you can somehow, and you're probably not going to slow down Kispert, give everybody the threes and just see, if they have an off night, maybe you're there at the end.
Yeah, I think the 2 of them wound up going exactly 40% in that Creighton game, Nembhard and NII combined, and I mean,
they made them early. They
made them early. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're slightly above average shooters, but when they get wide open shots, that's a little bit different too. I mean, right. But the other thing that Creighton was doing was going under. I don't mind giving up those threes off the bounce like that to one of them. It's the giving up wide open catch and shoots to those guys. I don't know, but you have to give up. After the game, Few said you kind of have to pick your poison against us, and that's right. I mean, you have to pick your poison.
Yep. All right, Jordan. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. I tweeted out your Twitter handle. I'll put a link in the YouTube video. And you guys make sure you go and check out Hoop Vision. It's great content. You will become a smarter basketball watching fan if you consume his content. So great having you here, man. Good catching up.
I'm not a smart basketball watching fan, but when I watch Jordan, I become one.
I appreciate that, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks Jordan.
Man. Be well.
Jeffrey.
That was good. That was good. I like Jordan a lot. I'm glad he's doing well. I'm glad his business is growing. He does great stuff. So always good to give guys like that, young guys in the business, like you and him, a platform.
All right, so let's just do some picks real quick on these betting lines and where you kind of are standing at this point. And if anybody has any questions, fire them away in the chat because we have some time to answer some stuff. We got about 12 minutes here. So Jeffrey, I'm going to let you go first. Where are you on Baylor and Houston?
On one hand, I say to myself, all right, this is going to be a war. It's going to come down to the end. We got to have a close game in one of these 2 games, and it's not going to be Gonzaga UCLA. So I just feel like this has got to be it, right? But you know what I think of Baylor. You know what I think of this Baylor team, and they turned it on the second half the other day, and I think they have the capability to do that again if they're making shots. But honestly, Rob, I think I'm going to take the points here. I think I am going to go with Houston, take the points, and just say this is going to come down to the end. It's going to be a close game, or even Houston backdoor covers on this one. I love Baylor. I think they're going to win the game, but I'm going to take the 5 points here. I was hoping it would climb a little bit. No, I made Borzello.
You made Norlander. You made the entire generation.
I don't know about that, and it's not a good thing. I mean, helping you three clowns, it's like helping the Three Stooges.
Yeah, right. All right, so you like Houston in the points. I think I lean that way a little bit. The big thing and the big issue that I have with the Houston side is I think there's a very real chance, like, because Houston's defense kind of dares you to shoot contested threes, and I think that Baylor is such a good 3-point shooting team. There's a very real chance they go like 10 for 20 from three. So I don't know if I necessarily want to be on the side here. What I like is the under, and because I think this is just going to be like a physical, grinded out game. I would not be surprised to see if both teams had some of their better players in foul trouble in the first half. I think it's going to be low scoring, which kind of leads me to believe that it'll probably be something that comes down to the final stretch. Because if this game's played in the 60s, the fact that it would be under 5 is something that seems pretty likely. I don't love a side here. If you were going to force me to pick, I would probably take Baylor just because I think Baylor is the better team.
I do too, but I just feel like, again, Houston can muck it up enough.
Yes. Yeah. No, I hear you. So that's why I want to be on the unders, because I think they're going to make it ugly and they're going to make it close. But I mean, if you want to, what you're doing by taking the under is basically saying I think it's going to be a close game and that Baylor's not going to make enough free throws down the stretch to be able to put it over the number. And I don't want to be in that situation. So I'm not going to be on the side, but I will be on the under in this spot. All right. He said, are they putting Mitchell on Grimes? Kevin Jack asked. The matchups for me for Baylor don't really matter because they switch so much defensively. So like they might start out with Mitchell on Grimes, but it's the kind of thing where they're going to bounce around. Jimmy B asks, is Jared Butler going to have a breakout game? At some point, he is going to.
I know he has. At some point, he has crazy. I don't know if he does against these guys. I worry. You know, the one thing with Jared Butler going up against these guys, I guess it depends who he's matched up on, but they're just so big, strong, and physical. I don't know if this is a game. I feel like this is more of a Davion Mitchell game than it is a Jared Butler game. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like Jared Butler's got to get going at some point, and now's as good a time as any. The one thing with Jared Butler in his career, he's made big shots. You know, he's been a second-half player. And he's had some really bad first halves, especially this season, kind of slept through them and come out and absolutely dominated in the second half. So I could see him doing that. He's so even keel, doesn't get rattled, doesn't force a ton when he could. You know, I think that's the great thing about this Baylor team is, and same thing with Gonzaga, like they both play for each other. They're not shot hunting. You know, Butler could easily do that to try to improve his draft stock. He doesn't. Suggs at Gonzaga rarely does that. I think Butler, depending on who he's matched up against, I think absolutely could have a breakout game.
All right, I agree. So let's talk about Gonzaga and UCLA. The points there are 14.5 right now. The total is 145, I believe, over at Bet Rivers. So let's go through that, and then I'm going to give you a couple props that I want you to roll through because Bet Rivers has some actually interesting player prop bets that I really like. So I'm going to let you go ahead first on this UCLA line. Is there what number does it have to get to for you to take the points here?
20, probably 20. I mean, no, seriously though, like I'm not kidding.
I'm the same. I'm the same. When it came out at minus 13, it opened at Bet Rivers. It opened at Gonzaga laying 13 and the total at 143. And I like literally jumped on that. I put 3 units on Gonzaga minus 13, and I bet on the over at 145. So I might throw a little bit more on the over, and we'll see what happens there. But I think
control in the chat, Rob.
Called you what?
An effing troll.
Whoa.
I'm not.
It's rude. Rude.
I thought it was Leonard. Profanity in the chat.
I thought it was Leonard for a second.
T-Serve. Who's T-Serve? He's probably an Indiana fan. That'd be my guess. I don't know.
Mark Titus.
Could be Mark Titus. Yeah, it could be Titus. Is that you?
No, I think he's live on the 3x3 thing right now. Anyway, yeah. So there's nothing there that I can entice you with to try to get you to be on.
I mean, again, like, how do you feel good about it? Like, you can't. Watching Gonzaga, you can't feel good about betting against them. Not with UCLA. I mean, the only thing you can say is like, all right, yeah, UCLA, look at what they've done these last 2 games, right? Beaten, not just covered, but beaten Alabama and Michigan, 2 teams that we thought were capable of making a run, maybe to the championship game or thereabouts. And, I don't know. I just feel like, again, they're going to be so overmatched. And we saw what Timmy did to that zone in Mobley. Like, I don't know. Can Cody Riley stop him? I mean,
No.
Really? Like, I know he's big and strong, and Cody Riley's had that same body since he was like 8 years old. But I don't know. I just don't know how. And Juzang, to me, like, he's played great. When is this ankle thing going to actually like wear on him and start to affect his shot? Like, I wonder if it happens.
I don't think that it will. I think it's the kind of thing where you give him enough Tylenol and ibuprofen and he plays through it. And once you get that kind of the energy going and the adrenaline flowing, like he's not feeling anything. All right, so player props. This is what I want to dive into. There's a couple that I think are really interesting. First and foremost, for both Jalen Suggs and Drew Timme, the total points, rebounds, and assists combined. For Suggs, that number is 24.5, and for Timme, that number is 30.5. And wow. I like the over on both of those.
Yeah, I like the over at Suggs a lot. I know he had a quiet game last game, but I don't know. I feel like Suggs could get that just with points.
Yeah, he could. The key is going to be if they're able to get out in transition, because Suggs is dangerous in transition. And look, here's the thing.
So much bigger than Campbell. He's so much bigger than Campbell. Now, maybe like I don't know who they put. I don't know how you can put Campbell on him. Like, I don't. I mean, I don't know how.
I mean, you have to, though, because Nembhard will take Campbell in the post. And Ayayi is so great at moving off the ball and some of the off-ball cutting that you can't have him on there.
I might live with Nembhard on that one and put Tiger Campbell on Nembhard and say, like, all right, try to take him in the post and we'll bring help.
Yep. So I love the over on both of those. A lot of it is due to the fact that I also think that we're going to get a lot of easy rebounds for Suggs and Timme, because the UCLA is going to fade the offensive glass and just not even go after it. So I think we're going to get a lot of those Russell Westbrook rebounds. The other one I really like is the Jaime Jaquez points over. I think that Johnny Juzang is going to end up being guarded by probably Kispert. And then what you're going to end up having is a situation where Jaime Jaquez, who is a little bit more of like a 3/4 than any of these other guys that UCLA has, will have a guard that is guarding him. And I think that he can kind of get a little physical, get a little overpowering, and be able to score that way. So I like his over for points.
What is it? What's the Jaime?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jaime Jaquez, it's 12.5.
Ooh, that's low.
Yeah, so I like the over for points there. Yeah. And then there's 2 things that I like in the Baylor Houston game. The first is Dejan Jarreau's assists over 4.5. We talked about this on the stadium show that we did, but just because of the way that I think that Houston needs to attack this no middle defense that Baylor plays, I expect him to be able to create a lot of open shots. And if Houston is making their threes, then I think that it's everywhere.
You think Houston's going to make more than 4.5 threes in the game?
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to take a ton. So
we'll see.
I think they'll make them. Goodman, T-Serve says nobody takes Goodman's advice. We saw how much he knows.
You're right.
Are
you an Indiana fan? Are you an Indiana fan? That's my only question for you. Because if you are, Brad Stevens should be showing up soon.
He's coming. He's on
the way.
The last one I like is the Davion Mitchell points, rebounds, assists under. That number is 21.5. I like a lot of the player prop unders in this game just because of the fact that I think we're going to see a lot of fouls and a lot of players that are in foul trouble. So a low scoring game where some of the best players might not be playing the full 40 minutes that you would expect is something where I kind of want to be on the unders there. And here's the other reason I like it, because I think that Dejan Jarreau is like the one guy that has a chance to kind of give Davion Mitchell some trouble because of his length, his ability to contest jump shots, and the fact that he might be able to make up ground and block something at the rim if Davion gets to step on him. So that's where I'm at with it. You like anything else?
I'm going to look at all the player props today. What was the one that we liked that was kind of funny? Was how many times they show – what was it?
How many times they show Clyde Drexler? It was
or Akeem. Their highlights.
Yeah, Clyde Drexler or Akeem. How many times they show Clyde Drexler or Akeem? I don't know if Rivers has that prop. Let me check. I got to find it.
I don't know.
It's somewhere on their site. You got to. Yeah, if you dig around, there's plenty of places where you can find some really.
Yeah, I'm going to go crazy on those tonight. I'm just going to go nuts, just because, especially with the UCLA Gonzaga game, I just need some rooting interest in the second half. So I'm just going to go bananas on all the props.
Yeah, just take and fire at the overs. Like you got to take overs. Well,
exactly
I'll tell you what, the line's already moving. It's up to 14, or it's at 14.5 still, and the total is up to 146. So if you're going to start firing, like, get on it now.
If it gets to 20
now. Yep.
If it gets to 20, Rob, I that's my only way of taking UCLA. I'm going to take the Zags, and they're loose. They're good. I think, again, we just need that game Monday. We need a Gonzaga Baylor game. What are you doing over there, Rob?
Huh?
You're making noise over there.
I'm not doing anything.
All right.
I'm doing anything. You're hearing things. I was getting ready to retweet something about how we're talking about how people are calling Goodman trolls, but I decided not to because we're about to end the stream. Anyway, Jeff, this was fun. We are going to be back tonight for a post-game show. I know Deshaun Butler will be with me. We'll see if John Fanta can make it, whether or not he consumes his entire bottle of Merlot before he jumps on. We'll see. We'll find out. And Jeffrey, hopefully you can come back and get some pizza with us late night and talk a little hoops.
It depends. If I got to write after the game, it may be too late, but maybe I'll jump in for a few minutes in the stands at Lucas Oil.
Do what you got to do. Always a pleasure. We'll see you guys later tonight.